Well, thank you very much, Laura. And I begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, and I pay my respect to their elders, past, present and emerging. And I acknowledge that tomorrow is a very difficult day for our First Nations people. I want to acknowledge members of my team who are here en masse. Richard Miles, Christina Keneally, Katie Gallagher, Tanya Plibersek, Tony Burke, Linda Burney, Brendan O'Connor, Michelle Rowland, Stephen Jones, Tim Watts, David Smith, and the hero of Eden Monero, Christy McBain. And I also want to acknowledge Andrew Barr, the Chief Minister of the ACT. Australia's best days are ahead of us. Not just the better days that we're all hoping for right now, but the best our nation has ever seen. Together, we are ready for it. Australia Day is a good moment for us to reflect, to consider our blessings as a nation and to celebrate them. Perhaps that is more important now than it has been for decades. We've been through a time so challenging that none of us will ever forget it. And I know as we enter the third year of the pandemic, a lot of Australians are exhausted. They're worn down by bad news, uncertainty, inconvenience, disruption and separation from loved ones. And we look forward to the day when we can put all of this behind us. My argument to you today is that if we want to get this moment right, Australia can emerge from this once-in-a-century crisis better, stronger, more fair and more prosperous. My case for government is that we must learn the lessons of this pandemic in order to build a more resilient Australia for the future, a better future. What stands before us now is the opportunity to build on the best qualities that characterise Australians and to realise our potential as a people and as a nation more fully than at any time in our history. The chance is ours to seize, but it requires courage and it requires vision. It requires leadership that brings Australians together, and it demands a government that steps up to its responsibilities and fulfils its most fundamental roles: to protect our people, to act as a force for good, and to change people's lives for the better. Just pushing through this pandemic is not enough. We need to learn from it. We need to use what the last 2 years have taught us to build a better future. Paul Keating once said that the lesson of the First World War was a lesson about ordinary people, and the lesson was that they were not ordinary. We've had that same truth brought home to us these past 2 years. I say it every chance I get. The Australian people have been simply magnificent during this crisis, calm in the midst of turmoil, looking out for each other in tough times. If I'm elected Prime Minister of this great country of ours, I see it as my deep responsibility to repay these sacrifices, to reward these efforts, to prove worthy of the generosity and bravery of the Australian people. And that means building on the lessons of this pandemic. 1, a strong, properly funded public health system with Medicare as its backbone is vital to every aspect of our lives. 2, the rise of insecure work has undermined too many families' confidence in their future. 3, stripping our TAFE and training sector of investment over the last decade has led to crippling skills gaps and worker shortages. 4, the need to manufacture more things here in Australia, to be more self-reliant and to back Australian businesses, big and small, so our fate isn't held hostage to global supply chains. 5, the need for a high-quality NBN, because this isn't an optional extra. It's not about downloading videos. It is fundamental to working from home, building a small business, education for our children, and vital medical consultations. And 6, affordable childcare, because this too is not a luxury. It's an essential part of family and working life. In a recent profile, when asked to reflect on his time in office, Mr Morrison suggested that he is not interested in leaving a legacy. For him, leaving no legacy is a conscious choice. I find this pretty remarkable. If given the opportunity, I want to make a real difference for the people of our nation and to strengthen the nation itself. I want a better future. And if I'm successful, the future we are working toward will be demonstrated to Australians by the end of Labor's first term. An Australia with rising living standards, lifted by more secure work, better wages, better conditions for small business, stronger Medicare and more affordable childcare. An Australia with more secure jobs in both existing and new industries, industries that will be reaping the benefits of cheap, renewable energy. An Australia that is secure in our place in the world, standing up for Australian democratic values and for human rights on the global stage. An Australia with robust funding for the Australian Defence Force, which rebuilds our diplomatic service, revitalises our international aid program and works closely with our American ally and regional partners in the challenges and uncertainties that lie ahead. An inclusive society where gender, race or religion are no indication of a person's opportunities or possibilities. An Australia that is reconciled with ourselves and with our history, and with a constitutionally recognised First Nations voice to Parliament. The desire to leave that legacy for Australians, with the lessons of this moment at its core, will be a driving force of a Labor government that I seek to lead.